Even I had a bully when I was at school. But you've done the right thing, taking up the boxing. Not so you can get your own back on him and beat him up, but boxing gives you confidence, doesn't it? And the minute these bullies see you've got a little bit of confidence, they'll leave you alone. So I think you've done the right thing, mate. But keep your chin up, and I wish you all the best with the boxing. Good luck, son.
At 46, Ricky Hatton ended his journey amid the shock of the British boxing world and the broken hearts of Manchester. On September 14, 2025, he passed away quietly at his home in Hyde, leaving an irreplaceable void for a city that long regarded him as its immortal son, and for the global crowds who used to roar whenever the name the Hitman echoed through stadium speakers. Greater Manchester Police quickly confirmed the death was not linked to criminal activity. What remained was the emptiness of a community trying to say goodbye. Social media overflowed with tributes, woven together with questions that may never be answered. A legend has gone, and the public is not yet ready to accept it. Ricky Hatton was more than a two-weight world champion with over 40 career wins. He was an emblem of a working-class culture that believes strength can rise from basements and smoke-filled pubs where Blue Moon once beat like the heart of a community. Born in 1978 in Stockport, Hatton grew up in an ordinary family in Greater Manchester. His father worked manual jobs, his mother looked after the home, and both raised young Ricky in the noisy atmosphere of football and boxing, the city's unofficial religions. But that glittering career ran alongside unusual habits that made Hatton who he was, and also pushed him to rock bottom many times. He was nicknamed Ricky Hatton, not merely as mockery, but because of a rare truth in boxing. Hatton would gain dozens of kilos in a matter of weeks after fights. While other fighters maintained iron discipline to stay fight-ready, Hatton let himself go completely. He drank up to 40 pints a day, spent nights boozing at his regular pubs, and ate greasy comfort food as if it were the only way to feel he still belonged to Manchester. Each public appearance would see his body balloon so quickly that the press reacted with a mix of astonishment and ridicule. But for Hatton, it was more than habit. It was a statement. He never abandoned his class, never transformed into an aloof star. In the ring, he was a champion of steel discipline. Under the lights-off stage, he returned to being a small-town lad who loved chatting with mates and singing in cigarette smoke. The vicious cycle of gaining weight and then cutting down before a fight became Hatton's brand, beloved by fans but eroding his body and mind. Behind the ring lights lay a darkness few understood. Hatton had been the personification of an ideal dream, but after crushing defeats, especially to Mayweather and Pacquiao, he began to fall into a void. A great athlete must face the lack of new summits to conquer. The glory fades. For Hatton, the 2009 knockout did not just break his body, it shattered his spirit. "I hit rock bottom. I didn't care whether I lived or died, to be honest with you." Those were not complaints, but the confession of a once ardent warrior cast off the battlefield. In those years, Hatton would go home and sit in his regular Hyde pub trying to find joy. He was so fragile that he would enter the pub and cry before he even had his first drink. The press photographed Hatton drunk. A video even showed him using cocaine. The public was stunned, but the truth was he was suffering from severe depression. In a rare moment, Hatton blamed himself for letting down British sport, the boxing community, Manchester, his family, and his children. He felt indebted to everyone for troubles he had caused. That feeling persisted like a wound that would not heal. In 2010, Hatton entered rehab. Fans, instead of turning away, rallied to support him more. But the media would not relent. Every slip was magnified into a social sentence. Hatton never gave up. He wanted to live, no matter the cost, struggling to wrest freedom from injuries that afflicted both body and mind. He pleaded for the public to recognize that he was trying to be better. That is also why, in 2012, he returned to the ring. He longed to close his career on his own terms. The loss to Senchenko ended that dream, but it also proved the indomitable spirit he stood for. In later years, Ricky Hatton found a small sliver of light by turning to coaching. He spent time in the Hyde gym, mentoring younger fighters and passing on not only technique, but also the spirit of getting back up after defeat. For Hatton, boxing was more than punches. It was a lesson in patience, in accepting a fall and finding a way to stand again. Many pupils recalled him softly singing Blue Moon during training, as a ritual to keep his faith alive. Among them, his son, Campbell Hatton, became the emblem of that legacy. Campbell once said the greatest thing his father taught him was not how to land a knockout, but to face weakness and keep moving forward. Of course, when the body is stretched to its limits, the mind can no longer hold steady. The press published images of his decline, his gauntness, his entanglement with drugs. And for Hatton, the headlines were not untrue. He had truly lost his way. In a rare confession, Hatton revealed nights when he held a knife and contemplated ending his life because he could not find a reason to live. At times, he admitted, "It doesn't matter how many people say, 'Don't be hard on yourself.' I feel like I have to redeem myself to my fans, my family, and the whole of British sport." A fighter who once turned tens of thousands into a Manchester crowd in Vegas could not conquer the emptiness within. People applauded and cheered when he entered the ring, but when the lights went out, the silence remained, only the bitter ache surrounding his sensitive soul. While other legends carried sharp or powerful nicknames, Hatton's fans gave him a different title: the most down-to-earth of all champions. That phrase clung to him for 2 decades, not by accident. To millions of Manchester supporters, Hatton never lost the essence of a Hyde lad. Blunt, rough-edged, but deeply genuine. The kind of man you could meet in a pub and instantly feel like he was one of your mates. There were nights after big wins, while reporters waited outside luxury hotels, when Hatton would vanish and reappear in some shabby roadside pub. He'd order a few pints, slump into a wooden chair, throw an arm around shift workers just off duty, and sing along as if he were still 18. A few lucky journalists witnessed these scenes and rushed to write stories, framing them as either quirky or controversial. One wrote that Hatton acted no different than a football fan, except the bruises on his fists. Unexpectedly, these moments only made him more beloved. They cemented Hatton in collective memory, a star who shone brightly yet never intended to leave the crowd behind. For him, glory wasn't about escaping his roots, but carrying them back into familiar pubs to share with the people who had cheered him since day one. This habit lasted throughout his career, becoming part of his identity. While many boxing champions kept their distance, living in gated mansions, Hatton treated appearing among everyday fans as a duty. Nobody needed a VIP ticket to meet their hero. You could walk into a pub and find Hatton there, ready with a firm, affectionate hug. That bond created an unbreakable connection. If pubs were his spiritual home in Manchester, Las Vegas was the grand stage where he exported Manchester to the world. In the 2000s, when Hatton reached his peak, tens of thousands of fans turned his fights into mass pilgrimages. It was said no other fighter ever brought so many supporters across the Atlantic. Figures of 30,000 or 40,000 weren't exaggerations. Vegas itself bore witness. When Hatton faced Floyd Mayweather in 2007, Vegas exploded. Casinos overflowed with fans in Manchester City blue. The neon-lit Nevada desert streets transformed into an English football carnival. In bars along the Las Vegas Strip, no disco or American pop played, only the thunder of Blue Moon. U.S. reporters wrote in awe, "Vegas turned into Manchester in a single night." Las Vegas, a city defined by Hollywood stars, glittering casinos, and glamorous arenas, had to yield to a lad from Stockport. Thousands of fans singing, waving blue flags, lighting flares changed the atmosphere entirely. Hatton's opponents faced not only his hammer-heavy fists, but also the deafening roar drowning out the bell. For those who were there, the memory of Vegas 2007 wasn't about the fight. Hatton lost to Mayweather, but about how an American city was overtaken by Manchester spirit. They remembered busloads of chanting fans, crowds filling the square outside MGM Grand, and the feeling of a community building a bridge from England to America for one man. Most carried home not the defeat, but the image of Ricky Hatton blazing like a banner. The reason thousands emptied savings just to scream his name abroad. Among everyone who walked that path with him, Paul Speak was the constant figure who rarely appeared in headlines. They met when Hatton was still a scrappy young boxer from Manchester, unsure of his future. Speak was manager, friend, and confidant, the one who showed up when no one else did. Without Speak, the Hitman's journey might have ended much sooner. Few know that after Hatton's devastating loss to Pacquiao, it was Speak who found him, clutching a knife in a disturbed state, and tore it away before tragedy struck. Speak kept Hatton tethered to fans, to family, to life beyond the ring. When rumors swirled and press swarmed, he absorbed the blows so Hatton could breathe. When Hatton laughed drunkenly in pubs, Speak didn't interfere, even knowing the media backlash, because he understood it was where his friend felt most at ease. After Hatton's death in 2025, Speak revealed stories never told before. He recalled nights knocking on Hatton's door at 2 a.m., afraid his friend might harm himself. He described long-away trips when Hatton, unable to sleep, would talk till dawn about Manchester, family, city matches. These stories didn't polish Hatton's image, but they made him real. Contradictory, strong yet fragile, but always overflowing with love for the world and desperate to be loved in return. Hatton's family affirmed that in his final months he was more stable. He looked after himself, found joy in mentoring young fighters, and sometimes laughed as he recalled the past. Yet the question lingers: what took him? A sudden heart attack, a hidden health complication, or the body's final betrayal after years of punishment? No clear answer exists, only empty spaces filled with theories and sorrow. Looking back, Ricky Hatton's life is not just that of a champion with gleaming belts, but of a complex man, strong yet tender, raucous yet despairing. His eccentric habits, battles with himself, wild nights, and darkest moments all form a portrait unlike any fighter. Hatton lived raw, lived fully, and for that, he became part of Manchester's very flesh and blood. His legacy is not just in numbers: 48 fights, 45 wins, 32 knockouts, 4 world titles. Those are surface facts. What remains deeper is memory. To Manchester, Hatton was a son to be proud of, proof that a boy from Council Flats could rise to global heights without ever losing his roots. On the day Ricky Hatton passed away, the Etihad Stadium held a minute of silence before the Manchester Derby, an honor reserved only for those who are truly the lifeblood of the city. More than 50,000 people stood together, silent, before erupting into applause, the clapping echoing like the heartbeat of a community that had just lost a piece of itself. On the giant screen, Hatton's face appeared, while a sea of blue washed over the stands. No one spoke of the score anymore, only reverence for the Hitman, the legend who was gone forever. The loyal fans who had followed him throughout his immortal career, those who once stayed up through the night to watch every punch on television, now asked themselves, how do we tell this story to the next generation? Will they ever understand what it felt like for an entire city to rise together, to sing together, to believe in one man? The answer lies in his living legacy. In Campbell Hatton, every time he steps into the ring. In the young fighters Ricky once guided. In that minute of silence at the Etihad that turned the stadium into a sacred ground. And in every tribute video, every article, every tear shed at the mention of his name. If you once followed Ricky Hatton, once sang Blue Moon, once cried for a legend, leave your memory in the comments below. Share the moment that makes you remember the Hitman the most. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you moving stories of legends who are gone, but whose marks remain eternal. In our next video, we'll tell another journey, one filled with both light and shadows, and it's a story you won't want to miss.